June 1944, England. It's 4:15 in the morning. The air is cold, damp, and silent. You stand outside a small military barracks, staring into the darkness. In less than an hour, you'll board a B-17 flying fortress for another bombing mission over Germany. You are only 20 years old. Back home, your family believes you're safe somewhere in England. They have no idea that today could be the last day of your life. A military truck arrives, and without saying a word, you climb aboard with the rest of your crew. Nobody speaks. Every face around you carries the same expression, fear hidden behind forced confidence. Soon you enter the briefing room. A large map hangs on the wall, and a red line stretches deep into Germany. The commanding officer points to today's target, an aircraft factory that supplies enemy warplanes. He explains that it is one of the most heavily defended locations in Europe. Heavy anti-aircraft guns protect the city, and experienced fighter pilots patrol the skies above it. The room becomes completely silent. Everyone understands exactly what that means. There is a real chance that some of the men sitting beside you will never return. Minutes later, you walk across the airfield. Waiting for you is the aircraft that now feels like a second home, the legendary B-17 Flying Fortress. Built from aluminum and powered by 4 enormous engines, it has carried thousands of young Americans into dangerous missions across Europe. Today, it carries you. You climb through the narrow entrance and move to your position. The smell of fuel, hot oil, and cold metal fills the aircraft. Around you, the crew quietly checks their equipment one final time. The pilot starts the first engine, then the second, then the third, finally the fourth. The entire bomber begins to shake as the powerful engines roar to life. Your headset crackles as the control tower clears your aircraft for takeoff. The pilot pushes the throttles forward. The engines scream. The runway races beneath you faster and faster until, suddenly, the ground disappears. You're airborne. As the sun begins to rise over England, hundreds of B-17 bombers climb into formation. They appear from every direction until the sky is filled with silver aircraft stretching as far as the eye can see. Fighter escorts join the formation while the bombers continue climbing toward 25,000 feet. For a brief moment, everything feels peaceful. Soft clouds drift below the wings, and the morning sunlight reflects brilliantly across the polished metal. Looking outside, it's almost impossible to believe you're flying toward one of the most dangerous missions of the war. Then the radio comes alive. Enemy coastline ahead, 5 minutes. Instantly, the mood changes. Every crew member checks oxygen masks, parachutes, machine guns, and ammunition. Nobody talks anymore. Every man knows that once they cross the coast, there is no turning back. A few moments later, black explosions suddenly appear in the sky. Flak, German anti-aircraft shells burst all around the formation. One explosion rocks your aircraft so violently that you nearly lose your balance. Another detonates just outside the wing. Metal fragments slam into the fuselage. The bomber shakes again. Through a side window, you watch another B-17 take a direct hit. Flames erupt from one of its engines. Thick black smoke pours into the sky as the damaged bomber slowly falls out of formation. One by one, white parachutes appear beneath it. Some crew members escape. Others never do. Nobody inside your aircraft says a single word. You simply watch as the burning bomber disappears into the clouds below.
Then another warning comes through your headset. Enemy fighters approaching, 12 o'clock high. You look toward the horizon and spot dozens of tiny black dots moving faster than anything you've ever seen. Within seconds, they become German fighter aircraft charging directly toward the bomber formation. The first burst of machine gun fire tears across the sky. Bright tracer rounds flash past your cockpit. The sound of bullets striking metal echoes through the aircraft. Glass shatters. Warning lights begin flashing across the instrument panel. The peaceful morning is gone. Training is over. Fear becomes reality. You tighten your grip, take one deep breath, and realize you've only just entered German airspace, and the hardest part of the mission is still waiting ahead. The German fighters close in from every direction. Their attacks come fast, precise, and relentless. Tracer rounds tear through the morning sky as your gunners fire back with everything they have. The deafening roar of machine guns drowns out every other sound. One fighter flashes past the nose of your bomber, missing by only a few feet before disappearing beneath the clouds. Another attacks from behind, sending a burst of bullets through the tail section. The aircraft shudders violently. Warning lights begin flashing across the cockpit. One engine has been damaged. Smoke slowly pours from the wing, but the pilot refuses to leave the formation.
Alone, your bomber would become an easy target. The only chance of survival is to stay together. Minutes later, the city finally appears beneath the clouds. Smoke rises from factories, rail yards, and warehouses spread across the landscape. The bombardier crawls into position inside the glass nose of the aircraft. Every crew member suddenly becomes silent. The pilot struggles to keep the damaged bomber perfectly level while anti-aircraft shells explode all around you. Every second feels like an hour. Then the bombardier calmly speaks two words that everyone has been waiting for. Bombs away. The aircraft suddenly becomes lighter as thousands of pounds of bombs fall toward the target below. Nobody cheers. Nobody celebrates. Your mission isn't over. In many ways, it's only becoming more dangerous. German fighters attack again as the formation turns for home. One enemy aircraft dives directly toward your bomber before disappearing beneath a wall of gunfire from the waist gunners. Another B-17 beside you takes a devastating hit. Its wing breaks apart, and within seconds the aircraft begins falling from the sky. You watch helplessly as it disappears into the smoke below. Friends you shared breakfast with only a few hours ago are suddenly gone. There is no time to think. There is no time to grieve. Survival is the only mission left. The damaged engine begins losing power. The bomber can no longer keep up with the rest of the formation. Slowly, the other aircraft disappear into the distance, leaving your crew frighteningly exposed. Every strange sound inside the aircraft makes your heart race. Every vibration feels like the beginning of the end. Fuel continues leaking from the damaged wing, while freezing air rushes through fresh bullet holes in the fuselage. The crew works together without panic. One man treats the wounded radio operator, while another helps repair damaged equipment just enough to keep the aircraft flying. Nobody talks about fear anymore, because everyone feels it. Hours pass before the English coastline finally appears through the haze. No sight has ever looked more beautiful. But the danger still isn't over. One engine has completely failed, another barely responds, and the landing gear refuses to lock into place. The pilot circles the airfield, while the crew desperately follows emergency procedures. Every pair of eyes remains fixed on the runway below. Finally, the pilot makes his decision. The bomber begins its final approach. It descends lower and lower until the wheels strike the runway with a violent impact. The damaged aircraft bounces once, slides across the concrete, and finally comes to a stop. For several long seconds, nobody moves. Then someone quietly laughs. Another crew member removes his oxygen mask and wipes away tears. Against impossible odds, you made it home. But not everyone did. As you climb out of the battered B-17, you look across the airfield. Empty parking spaces tell a heartbreaking story. Many bombers that left this morning will never return. Many young men who climbed aboard with hope will never see their families again. The mission was called a success, but victory has a cost that numbers can never fully explain. The B-17 Flying Fortress became one of the greatest bombers in history, yet every mission demanded extraordinary courage from the crews who flew them. Their stories remind us that behind every aircraft was a group of ordinary young people facing extraordinary danger. War is remembered through battles and victories, but it is truly measured by the lives forever changed. If you want to experience more true stories from history through the eyes of those who lived them, subscribe to Empire POV. Until the next mission, stay curious and never forget the people behind history.